I don't think that Jesus thought of himself in Muslim terms, but I don't think he thought about himself in Christian terms either. I think when you do a historical analysis to figure out what Jesus thought, I think he did think that he was a prophet. I think ultimately, though, that he thought that he was the one. He was not only the one who was proclaiming God's truth to those who could hear. He was that, so he was a prophet in that sense. But I think Jesus also believed his apocalyptic message that God was soon to bring destruction and to set up a new kingdom on earth that would be a utopian kingdom for those who did what God demanded of them. And Jesus thought he himself would be the king of this kingdom. So I think Jesus believed that Israel was going to be made a sovereign state. Jerusalem would be the capital. He would be the king, and his disciples would be his co-rulers. And so he did think he was a prophet, but I think he thought that he was the future Messiah in that sense. Not the Messiah who was going to die to save people for their sins. Nobody in Jesus' day had that idea of a Messiah. Christians invented that idea of a Messiah. But in Jesus' day, people expect there might be a future king who sets up, and so that's what happened. He sets up, he was expected to set up a kingdom, and I think he's the one who conceived of that idea. So it's really not the Muslim view, but it's also, it's not the Christian view either.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so quick comment on this. Ehrman says it's not the Muslim view, but the Muslim view is exactly what Ehrman just said, that Jesus is a prophet. And notice what Ehrman said. He said that Jesus taught of himself as a prophet. Jesus identified himself as a prophet too. See Mark chapter 6 verse 4. See the Gospel of Mark. See the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. Jesus identifies himself as a prophet, and the people around him, the disciples, etc., identify him as a prophet. So, and even Peter identifies Jesus as the prophet in Deuteronomy 18. If you read Acts, Peter identifies Jesus as a prophet. So I don't know what Ehrman is saying by, he didn't think of himself as Muslim in Muslim terms, because Islam or the Quran teaches that Jesus is a prophet. Ehrman is admitting that Jesus taught of himself as a prophet in the Gospels of Mark, Matthew, Luke, even John. The people around Jesus, and Jesus identifies himself as a prophet. So again, Apuss failed to disprove Islam's view or the Quran's view of Jesus, because Ehrman is basically saying, although Ehrman is saying that he didn't think of himself in Muslim terms, but notice what Ehrman says right after that. He says that he didn't think of himself in Christian terms either. Jesus was a prophet and thought of himself as the Messiah. Exactly what the Quran teaches. So yes, Ehrman, the Quran's view of Jesus being a prophet does match what you think Jesus thought of himself. But anyways, Apuss basically failed to get Ehrman to say things against Islam in this interview. So this interview horribly backfired against Apuss's plan to use Ehrman to say something against Islam. Stay tuned, more videos coming up ahead.